So to introduce us, we're Decision Lab and GSK, and we'll be presenting on simulation of manufacturing operation of a new pharma facility concept to support key design decision. And I'm Joy. I'm the simulation developer at Decision Lab, and as a simulation developer, I'm on the simulation team. And I've been working on a variety of simulation projects, including in industries such as manufacturing, retail, and pharma. And we also have Giovanni here.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Giovanni Giorgio. I'm in GSK, of course. I'm a chemical engineer by background. I've been in GSK for 15 years now, covering different roles from R&D to manufacturing. My current position is in global engineering and DHS, and in particular, I'm part of the front-end engineering and design team that is accountable for early stage design of new facility for GSK globally. My specific role is in front-end engineering design is to lead the modeling strategy to perform business analysis on capital project at any stage. For example, determine capacity, sizing of equipment, demand analytics, financial, material flow, people flow, all of the things you can model or they are important to make decision. And it has been 4 years that we are now collaborating with Decision Lab to solve the most challenging problems that require advanced analytics, in particular simulation and AI.
Thank you, Giovanni. And now we'll go into a little bit of agenda so that we go over what we'll be covering today. So first we'll give a little bit of background on Decision Lab and GSK. And then we'll go into the project overview where we talk about the facility that we'll be modeling, the project phases, and our solution approaches. Then finally, we'll do a little bit of demo on the simulation. So we'll be showing you our solutions and results. And finally, we'll discuss about further work and the simulation applications. So to jump right into the background about Decision Lab. So Decision Lab is an award-winning technology-focused application company. We provide decision support tools to support businesses in their decision-making process through a variety of disciplines, including, as you can see, simulation modeling, mathematical optimization, data science and AI, and software engineering. So, we cover a lot of stuff and we're great at what we do and have been named UK's leading management consultants in Financial Times for 2020 and 2021. And Decision Lab supports a wide variety of industries in solving their hardest problems. And obviously today we're here to share our innovations and simulation solutions with our key partner, GSK.
Yep. Yeah, and for GSK, of course, most of you may know GSK, but we are a science-led company, healthcare company with a special purpose to improve the quality of human life by helping people to do more, feel better, and live longer. We are around almost 100,000 employees spread across 96 countries, and we deliver medicine and drugs probably almost in any country in the world. If you go next, Joy, we have basically split in three subset company: pharmaceutical, vaccine, and consumer healthcare. As you may know or may have heard, consumer will probably leave after the joint venture with Pfizer early next year. So we'll be more focused on pharmaceutical and vaccine, where we are already between the top 10 in the world. Right, as project overview, I will just quickly introduce to the Parma site. The reason why I'm introducing you to the Parma site is in Italy is because here is the landscape of our modeling work, and I will introduce that just in a very few seconds. But just to introduce the site, Parma is one of the key sites for GSK manufacturing. They are specialized in secondary manufacturing, so formulation and packaging, and for sterile and non-sterile product. They've been since 2012 2012, they've been launched a few key products, biopharmaceutical products, Benlysta that is used for the treatment of lupus, and Nucala that's used for severe asthma. And this will be also the focus of the product they're focusing on for the next for the work that we're going to show. Also in 2018, there was a new facility that has been built on the Parma site that is for Sensaville, which is a new HIV treatment. And Parma is around 600 people, and they manufacture more than 100 million units per year to the patient in 120 countries. So the business requirements. So in 2020, my team received a request for a capital project with the objective to replace an old manufacturing sterile facility in Parma to minimize the risk of supply for two of our critical biopharmaceutical drugs. The new manufacturing technology that was selected was similar to the old one in principle, but quite different in the way it was supposed to be operated, and it was new to Parma, so no one really knew what to expect and how to, predict capacity and throughput. And the reason why it was different, it was mainly to the new regulatory requirement for manufacturing in sterile environment. At the same time, the demand forecast for those products increased, and it was also quite volatile. So therefore, there was even more need to understand overall capacity as a function of the number, the size, and the configuration of key equipment. But also of the operation, not just that, but also of the operating model, shift patterns, screening procedure, campaignings, etc. So we want to build a model that would be able to accurately predict capacity given a large set of input parameters in order to support some key decision. For instance, how many equipment to buy, what configuration to use, can we optimize throughput in order to improve capacity, and if yes, how? And also, can we use the data to build a compelling business case? And because we were at the beginning of the design phase, we want to explore different potential solutions that we call scenario, but also be able to evaluate them against some of our key value drivers in order to make decision around which solution or which scenario to progress and which one to terminate. As you can see from this graph, we had on the right-hand side, we could evaluate against MPV, cost of goods, CAPEX, OPEX, or even utilization levels. And now I guess Joy will describe a bit more in details the technicality around the model that we built.
Yeah, so as Giovanni introduced us with the problem and how it's defined, our solution approach has two main phases. Phase one, which is focused on the process. So with discrete event simulation, we design a process model to account for the complex manufacturing processes that Giovanni just described. And this includes accounting for a variety of machines, product batch sizes, cleaning processes, shift patterns, and just all around processes and resources that are associated with them. And while in phase two, we focus on information delivery. So upon phase one, we improve the model clarity through visualization. And through visualization, we provide clarity of the processes in the facility. And this is done through utilizing AnyLogic's CAD drawing imports and auto markup generation. So we receive the CAD files from GSK, and then we use the CAD converter to basically build the base layout of the site plan. And this allows us to work towards a digital twin for the site as we accurately reflect the site plan, the operator activities and processes, and the machine processes, of course. And so with phase one and phase two together, our simulation solution as a whole will assist decision-making through accurate process modeling as reflected in phase one, as well as visual indications of any process bottlenecks and scheduling effects, which is the main sort of forte of phase two. So that's the simulation sort of overview. Now we can sort of jump into the more exciting bits, which is the demo. So for phase one, as you can see here, it's more focused around the processes. So as you can see right here, there are the major processes, and which are the compounding, filling, lyo. And there are also sub-processes, as you can see in here, such as cleaning processes and the individual sub-processes. So the model is highly detailed in this sense, where both the major and the sub-processes are clearly defined. And it is also highly flexible, which means that resources such as machines and operators can be flexibly adjusted each run through our model inputs. And this helps with site planning, as they can run and compare business scenarios as needed. And right here we have the dashboard and the Gantt chart to account for the timing of batches and their progress, as that is crucial for sort of managing utilization and making sure that the resources are suitable for the site plan. And so as you can see right here, this is phase one of the model.
Yeah, and if I can add just a few comments, Joy. For me, this model, although it apparently, if you look at the overview of the process, it seems quite simple. It has quite a lot of complexity and parallel processes, because you have one filling line and multiple equipment to do the lyophilization, and we were as well trying to understand how many we need to do the lyophilization, because that was the bottleneck. But also we could implement things that otherwise traditionally we couldn't really know how to model. Things like rules that we have in operation, like we only start a batch when we know that some specific equipment later on are fully available, they've been fully cleaned. We could test different cleaning procedure depending on the type of product that was going through the line, or things like we don't start an operation if we know that we cannot complete that operation in the shift or in the day or in the week, whatever. So all these kind of rules that are more like predictive, looking forward rules, were quite essential for us, because in that way we could really understand better our capacity.
Thank you for the clarification. And we'll jump right into the phase two model, which immediately you can see that everything is more visual with the site plan. And you can see that there are operator movements and sort of duration tracking for the operators, and machine placement conveyor system. And just to go over that, the fundamental model is the same. So it's the model in phase one that's driving every visual aspects of phase two. And obviously we still have the dashboard and Gantt chart to keep track of the batches and provide information. But the impressive part of this is that there are synergies with the phase one model with the phase two model, such as the coloring of the batches. You can see right here that it's reflective of the Gantt chart coloring. And so it's very easy for the user to just track where the batch is and where it is visually in the site plan as well. So as we now have a set of resources determined with the support of our phase one model, we now show the fixed set of resources, such as machines and operators in the site, but also provide the flexibility in batch scheduling and model start points. So this means that the user can basically define that a batch starts at, say, like in the middle of filling, instead of always having to start at compounding, which, as you can see in the main model right here, is the starting point of the process. Sorry about this. Yep, right here. Yeah. And obviously, we also have the 3D visualization to just provide clarity of the processes. And we also have operator tracking to understand their movements and allocation. And yeah, so this is a very visual and communicative model right here.
Yeah, and if I can add, Joy, I think one of the advantage of the phase two was that we could treat when we did phase one, it was very useful for us as experts to use the model and make decision based on the output of the model. But then the phase two was even more useful because we could use this model to also communicate and engage stakeholders that otherwise would have seen the model more like a black box because they were not expert. You don't really see things happening, in the phase one model, and this was really used to drive that kind of engagement with the site and with the key stakeholders.
Yep. So these are our simulation models, and right here we'll go into conclusions and next steps.
Yeah, so, for me, the dynamic simulation approach using AnyLogic has provided meaningful insight into the future production line that cannot be offered by any traditional analytical tools. The simulation has allowed quick and extensive scenario analysis and optioneering, which has uncovered the key constraints and sensitivities of the original design. Plus, this essential knowledge required for the design process of a new facility provided longevity, efficiency, and value for money. So if I can just mention the four, let's say the top benefit, I would say for me the first one, really important, is we had the collaborative process to build this model. We really start with a blank canvas. And we had to build the model, so we had also a lot of thinking on how the things may work because we didn't have any previous experience. It was a cross-functional learning. We shared, we involved more than 30 people across 2 different countries. It was in the middle of COVID, so we had to do this, of course, offline, but it was very, very engaging. And for me, even without running any type of simulation, but just collecting the information and the data to build the model, for me it was already invaluable because we wouldn't have done that otherwise. Then the robustness as well of the modeling output, and because a lot of stakeholders were engaged, as I was mentioning before, led us to a fast approval of the project phase. So they approved the design of the project. They were highly confident that we had we had the modeling right, and therefore we proceed without delay, and hopefully next year it will start in construction phase. Then the ability also to evaluate 200 different business scenarios in a short amount of time was also very important because we this is not just 200 scenarios that we did just for the fun of it. There were real potential scenario, and the fact that we could analyze those scenarios so quickly allows us to drive us in the right direction, and exclude all the things that we didn't need from the beginning, and focus on the one that on the solution that we were really more likely to adopt. And last but not least, we also, I think, this type of approach leads to much more clarity and basically at the end led to some savings because we could calculate and be more confident on number of equipment, and therefore we knew that this was the right choice, and we saved some capex as well. All right, so if you move on the next one. So in terms of next steps, what we want to do, once we build this model and the new facility will be built, we really want to make this model more operational, so that the site can continue to use it. They're still using it now because, as I mentioned earlier, the demand is still fluctuating, is still volatile, so they still need to recheck and do some evaluation. But when the facility will be built and it'll become operational, what we think is to use this model to do some quick planning. If something, let's say, goes, we have a deviation, especially at the beginning where the process is still new, how you replan in a very complex process very quickly, and how you feed perhaps this data into the main planning system that we have. This will be our next steps, and Joy is really kind of hint that, because the way we want to do it is that you link to the current status of the facility. So the model read the status of the facility and start simulating from that status without need to start every time from zero. So you start running the simulation from the status, and that you can run for a week, for 2 weeks, in order to feed that data into the planning process. Another things as well we want to try is definitely use some deep reinforcement learning to further optimize batching, campaigning, of the products in order to maximize free capacity. And I think this is everything.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening. And if you have any question,
thank you very much, Giovanni. It was very interesting. And yes, we've had some questions coming in. So I'll see if I can, in fact, I'll start at the top, but actually it addresses a topic that people are looking at. Benjamin Schumann, cool. Did you create that, the heat map, your own heat map, sorry. Did you create your own heat map?
Yeah, so this is actually something that Giovanni and I talked over, because we did try out the initial AnyLogic heat map, but that information just wasn't really applicable for how the facility layout is, because there's not a crowd or of any sort. It's more about how much time each operator spend in an area. So yeah, it's a custom heat map.
Yeah, and if I cannot just comment, that one was quite important as well, because in a sterile environment, it's really important to track movement of people, because you want to understand where, there's more like crowded, or more frequent movement, because those are the area where you want to keep more focus around cleaning and bioburden.
Cool. Oh, that's great. Thank you. And Marcus is asking, could you give some more details on how did you validate the model?
Yeah, so I'll start on this because I think one point is that the model is initially just data driven. So a lot of the timing and inputs are based on what basically subject matter experts input into the system to begin with. But obviously, with working with GSK and closely with their site facility experts, we're definitely able to sort of validate the model through that. Giovanni, if you have any more to add to that.
Yeah, no, this is a great question. I mean, we try to validate the model and the logic behind the model by testing it, by understanding whether there was any potential fault or thing that logic that was not working properly, and we use the Gantt chart quite extensively to understand that with our SMEs. Of course, because it's a data-driven model, we cannot validate across any of our current data set, because this is a new process. And that's why, we really need this model to, when we try to simulate this in Excel or any other type of simulation, we couldn't really get our hand around, because it was, again, a very non-linear process with a lot of things that would happen in parallel. And if something would happen before another things, then you had different choice to make. So it's we didn't show that perhaps in a great detail, but it was hugely complex.
So the kind of the dynamic elements to this that
yeah, exactly.
Simulation was able to bring out.
Yeah.
Jacoben is asking, what was the execution time of this model, given that all the animation and the user interface? So, or maybe it's possible to say how long it was to simulate a year.
I think the model time at standard speed is quite fast, and that's also one of the functionalities that we implemented when discussing with GSK, is that whenever there are sort of, for example, shift changes, operators coming in, operators coming out, bring a batch from one place to another, we'd actually slow down the model just to for the visualization to sort of witness that process. But the user can speed it up to normal time whenever they want, because obviously processes take hours and hours, and we can't just sit there to, see the batches process.
Yeah, it's a slow type of operation. So, an operation could take up to 2 or 3 days to be completed. And, a batch will take almost a week, although you have multiple batch going on at the same time. But, if you want to really speed up the simulation and get the data, also because we had to simulate different years, because each year had different demand, I think we could run that model in seconds or just a few minutes, depending, on how many years we were simulating. Yeah.
And so, just going back on what you said there slightly about, there was a question about validation, but also, Joy, you said that you actually slow the model down just so that you can see the visualizations. Yeah. Is that part of the validation process in some respect?
So I think the main part that actually needs validation is the fundamental process model. And that part is actually running extremely fast. So I think that is the main model for sort of data outputs and sort of decision making, while the phase 2 of the model, which is more visually rich, where you would actually want to see more intricate processes, is where we implement the slowdown, because as engaging sort of the user, you want to see people moving around, and those are more, I guess, richer when they're like slowed down in sort of real time. While like data outputs, it's more efficient to sort of run it in for example, like virtual time.
Absolutely, yeah. We just got a couple of minutes, and there's a couple of questions come in here. So the facility is modeling part of the facility, and there's a question here that says, did you take into account the distances on your production facility? Maybe that is meaning like the entire space that it was operating in.
This is a good question. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it. We did it retrospectively because the phase 2 was done when already the layout was frozen, basically. Ideally we would have done phase 2 in parallel with phase 1. We couldn't do it because the time frame to build the model, and then not technically, but for us, to give all the data and get together and really scope the model was too short. We did this in less than a couple of months, which for us is a very quite short time frame. So we had to postpone phase 2 later on, so we could only do some, let's say, retrospectively check. And luckily it was fine because we already had experts that are, by experience, they know how to design layout and how to position the equipment in a way to minimize some of the flow. But yeah, ideally we would have done this earlier in order to drive the design of the layout as well.
It's always the battle against time.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
We can just squeeze one in here. In the future, would it be possible to do inference on the model parameters with real data from the factory?
Yeah, that's what we hope for. Hope to do so, because there will be, of course, some variability, especially on some of the process. Again, new process, understanding the deviation on new process and how that will impact. Again, not too much on productivity, because again, it's a relatively slow process. This is not fast-moving type of product, but it's more how those deviations will have an interact with the planning. Because again, if I cannot start a batch, let's say on a Friday morning, it means that I need to wait 3 days to start a batch. So how they'll cascade with all the the remaining of planning, it will be quite critical. So yes, that's what we're trying to. We hope to do so when the facility goes live.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, the two of you, and I hope you'll stick around on the platform and people reach out to you with questions and so on and so forth.
Sure.
Take a look at the roundtable discussions, and we'll see you around. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.